realize that not everyone is holly jolly in your workplace this time of year? In fact, maybe not even all the time of the year. Hey, ladies, we are talking about workplace mental health with Robert Manolson
Woo!
today. Yes. Let me tell you about Robert as soon as I share this interview into my Confident Women Leaders community. If you are not a member of my Confident Women Leaders community, I will pop a link in below, and all you have to do is, here we go, sharing, share to a group. All you have to do is click the link and you can join my Confident Women Leaders community. So let me tell you about Robert. For 13 years now, Robert has traveled through Alberta, facilitating the most amazing team development and team success workshop experiences ever. And that is how I met Robert, was at a conference for, it used to be, oh, I can't remember what it used to be anymore. It's called Align. I met him at a conference there, and he was doing this amazing workshop that I fell in love with. His message is simple. Business leaders, never underestimate or doubt the impact of fun at work and building a culture of highly engaged and
Yes.
happy work teams. This is truly the easiest and most cost-effective strategy to raise positive mental health levels in your workplace. And you guys know I am all about wellness, wellness, and wellness. It is the fundamental
Yes.
to everything. Now, here's the interesting thing about Robert. Robert's reputation for being high energy facilitator is really about shattering people's perceptions of what mental illness looks like. He wants us to know that his own personal journey of living with and managing depression and anxiety has impacted both his work and his professional life. Me too. And so we're here today to talk about mental illness, mental health, mental well-being at the Christmas season. Hello, Robert.
Hello, Kathy. And
Yeah.
always a pleasure to see you, and always a pleasure to hang out with you, Kathy.
Yes, Robert is high energy. Now, I can't keep that energy alive as long as Robert can, but maybe we're going to learn a few tips from him today. So, Robert, why is mental health so important in the workplace?
Well, first, I want to thank you, Kathy, so very much for inviting me to this wonderful opportunity to connect with your audience, connect with your followers. And my phone is ringing, and it never rings, Kathy. It never rings. Of course, here we are, and the phone is ringing, and my mental health right now, my stress levels have increased significantly.
Just ignore it. Just
Um,
ignore it.
so we're here to talk about the Christmas season. We're here to talk about our mental health during the Christmas season. But I just want to put out a disclaimer, uh, and let's have fun with this disclaimer. The disclaimer is, I'm not an expert on Christmas. And the reason why I say I'm not an expert on Christmas, the true meaning behind it, and the Christmas activities and all the traditions, is because I'm Jewish. And I was born into a family with two Jewish parents in Montreal. For the past many years, I've been in a wonderful, very happy, pretty awesome marriage with my wife Sharon, who is Catholic, and so she has brought me into the world of Christmas season, and she's brought me into the Christmas traditions and all the all the joy and activities that take place during Christmas. Give me a second here, and yeah, so I'm not speaking from an expert point of view. I'm quite the observer of the Christmas season, and there seems to be a little bit of crazy, a little bit of chaos going on at this time of year, Kathy, in and around the Christmas season. What's your take on that?
You know, I was talking with a client this week, and she said she was at Costco buying some Christmas baking. And her daughter said to her, "Why are you buying it? Why aren't you making it?" And she's like, "I don't have time. I'm overwhelmed. I'm a leader. I've got lots going on." And, you know, the more I talk to people at Christmas time and the more I have observed my own experience of it, I think we add and we try and shove all of this stuff in. I was watching my kids at the Santa parade this weekend trying to get pictures of their kids with Santa, and the kids
Yes,
bawling and crying and nobody wants to be there, and you look at your news feed and there's all these pictures of crying kids, but we've got to do it. It's like keeping up
yes,
with the Joneses. I've got to buy this many gifts and I've got to attend this many parties and I have to buy wrap the stuff and make it look perfect, and my house has to be decorated and I have to bake, and on top of all the day-to-day responsibilities. And
yeah,
so,
and it's funny that you should say that because um, that part, that aspect of Christmas, which is uh, um, part of the tradition of Christmas. I've only been exposed to that through my marriage with Sharon. So the first few years when we were together and we were dating, she literally had to teach me and coach me on what some of these traditions were, and some of them a little less. A little or a little more concerning in the sense of very much like you described, all the running around, things to do, getting her done. And I couldn't make sense of it for the longest time. In fact, I still can't make sense of it today. And so I'm wondering as I step back and look at the Christmas season once again, and having done so much work with workplace teams around team building, team development, team success, I'm wondering how workplaces are managing the energy, the that is Christmas and the Christmas season at this time of year with their staff. How are they managing that? And have they even managed that? And when I say manage, what might I be suggesting here, Kathy?
well, so what strikes me, Robert, is that I think that we do all this unconsciously. And so when you're
Yes.
talking about managing it, I'm not sure we're consciously or intentionally having conversations in the workplace about what does Christmas mean to you? Why do we celebrate it? What parts of it do you celebrate or not, as case in point? And I think that's part of the thing. I Tomorrow is the anniversary of my sister's death. I lost a sister when I was
Oh,
14 and she was 16.
so
And
sorry. Yeah.
yeah, and so for me, Christmas brings an extra piece of reawakened grief every year. We're
Mm,
talking about people who've got, you know, spouses who are sick or passed away. If you've lost a child, if maybe Christmas was never fun for you as a child, there's also this whole impact of seasonal affective disorder. I mean, good Lord, this is the
exactly.
darkest time of the year, for crying out loud. Uh, Add to that stress, right? Like, we're already struggling, but the stress of Christmas, and you've got a team that maybe
Yes.
isn't as holly jolly as you think they should be, and you're wondering why. There's some crankiness and bitterness. People are off sick, work's not getting done, and there's this pretense that we're all happy. I'll tell you another story, Robert, just because I thought of it. Oh, goodness sakes, probably about maybe 15 years ago now. I was new at leadership, and just shortly after I moved into my leadership position in the fall, the staff brought the union in, and things got really tense, and they didn't like me much because I was on the other side, right? They chose to take that out on me at Christmas. I planned a Christmas party.
What?
One staff member showed up at the Christmas party. So
What?
there's lots of stuff that is associated with teams and conflict. And there was another year, and probably this is why Christmas doesn't has taken a while to come back for me. Because quite honestly, there was many years where I didn't like Christmas. I hated Christmas. But there was another year where the government, in its wisdom, decided that December 31st, the proposal was going to be due. So what do you think we were doing the last 2 weeks of Christmas? Working our butts off on a big proposal. There was no time to take off. So, I don't think we're talking about it. And I think that's the thing. You wanted to cover 3 points today. And the
Yeah.
first point
And, and
was,
well, thank you first for talking about it.
sorry,
And Well, it's interesting how we arrived at this topic, how you and I arrived at this topic. About a week ago when we sort of connected here, and we're trying to kind of organize a topic, and it was just by chance, very serendipitous, like that we began a conversation about the Christmas season, and we had a wonderful conversation about expectations, but particularly in today's world of work. And so both of us realized, within ourselves that, and we asked the question, you know, is this happening in today's workplace? Are teams rallying together for those meaningful conversations around expectations at this time of year? And be it that workplaces are so diverse in cultures and colors, it's almost certain that everyone will have a different set of expectations for this time of year. But the main question is, are workplaces having conversations at this time of year while they're involved in work to facilitate good mental health, positive mental health leading up to the Christmas season? And your stories were interesting because nowhere in your stories did I hear anything about conversations, conversations between leaders, conversations between managers, conversations between leaders and managers and the team to facilitate an openness and understanding about, so how are we going to manage the next few weeks, the Christmas season and all the expectations that need to happen around that versus the expectations of work and all the expectations that need to happen around that. So it was neat for you and I to conclude that, hey, maybe there's a topic here that we could put out there and encourage anyone who's on a team in the world of work, leaders, managers, staff, to create opportunities for conversations around workplace expectations and holiday season expectations. So I think that was kind of our number one strategy. You need to get out there, and how uneasy and how comfortable it is in the workplace, but start a conversation.
Yeah.
And with that good energy, bring others into the conversation. And as a unit, as a team, as a department, figure this whole thing out and make it work comfortably for you and all your coworkers.
So tell me, Robert, because the way you facilitate workshops is fun. You bring a lot of fun in, like boom whacker fun. and so if we're talking about how to start those conversations, that might be a little bit tense. Do you have any tips on how to make those conversations a little bit easier, perhaps more fun, engaging?
Follow me, Kathy.
Oh boy.
Because no, it's all good. I'm just going to go grab my
boom whackers.
My plug. Yeah, exactly. Get those boom whackers. By the way, Google boom whackers, and you'll understand what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Plug in my phone, and we'll hope that it re-energizes itself
there we
here.
Go. Yep, we're good.
There we go.
Perfect.
Yeah, totally. Creating that how do you create that ease for that for around the idea of conversations at work on topics that just may be a little bit uneasy, a little bit uncomfortable, and not commonplace in the workplace. Just reflecting on how comfortable it was for you and I to start this conversation last week, or when we connected, and how easy it was for us to bring it forward. I think it was because of our relationship, right? We know each other, we respect each other, we trust one another. So in no way, shape, or form am I asking anybody, or you and I are not asking anybody to fire off a mass email, rally everybody into the staff lunchroom for a presentation. Find your allies. Find one ally, one individual at work who you trust, who you respect, who you know, and start the conversation with a trusted ally and build from there. Again, your thoughts on that, Kathy?
Oh, you took me back to my own ineptness as a leader. And sometimes when I'm listening to some of the women I'm coaching, you're right. It's like we march them into the staff room and we sit them down, and it's like, okay, we're going to have a conversation now and you're going to enjoy this. And it's like, that's not the way it works. Um, but a conversation in the coffee room. Maybe you're traveling together to an appointment, or it's the end of the day and you're tidying up after an event. Um, and yeah, it's someone that you already have a bit of a relationship with, that you trust, that you know you can engage in those conversations. Start small. I do think that we often think that this has to be an event. You know, sit down at
It
staff
has to be
meeting and
team
listen
building.
to
It
them.
has to be a team building event.
Yes, yes, and that's not the way it has to be. Um,
So Kathy and I are not talking about an event.
no, and we're
We're
not talking.
talking about a conversation with a trusted friend and
Yeah,
ally. And I
yeah,
love what you just said, because it was all about the informality of it, right? While sharing lunch together, while working at each other's desks on a project, while going for a walk over the lunch hour,
yeah,
passing each other in the elevator, right?
yeah,
Just to be conscientious of what's going on around you in terms of the Christmas season at work, and then grabbing hold of somebody, much to your surprise and their surprise, but
yeah.
that trusted individual, and just start small. It's
Yes,
amazing the energy that will build when you start small and let things happen organically
yes,
between the two of you, and between 2 plus 1, 2 plus 2, and build a group in a very organic way. So I think that's how it happened for us last week. It was very
absolutely.
organic. There was no intent on talking about the challenges that workers may be experiencing at this time of year, around the Christmas season. I was at the vet this morning, and one of our 3 cats needs a little bit of vet attention.
Hmm.
And so as they're bringing Peppy, one of our 3 cats, to the back of the vet hospital, the young girl says to me, well, I'll put him in a lovely kennel, and I'll decorate it with Christmas. And, I thought of us, Kathy, because I thought, if she only knew I was Jewish, right? like, am I supposed, just because it's everybody's holiday, I think I was expected to say,
Thank you.
that's awesome,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
good, decorate that kennel. And of course I did, because that's what I always do. And then I keep it to myself that, maybe that's not my holiday. And I left with that feeling of unease,
Hmm.
and discomfort, but no one is to blame here. It's
So,
just
so
the
I'm
way
gonna.
that we lump everybody into one group, and we
Yeah.
assume that everybody, as you said at the beginning, is full of holly and jolly and joy, but not so much.
No. So before we keep going, I just want to pause for a half a second.
You bet.
Those of you following along live or on the replay, if you have questions, pop them in now. Or if you're watching this on the replay, pop them in. Robert or I will answer questions later. So please ask away. The links will all be there. But you bring us to our second point, Robert, which is be open to differences, religion, family challenges, and mental health issues. And, it's a perfect example of, we assume this is what's going to happen. There was a time in my organization where we adopted a family at Christmas, or families. We were actually the ones that set it up. So, we were gathering supplies for, I don't know, 5 or 10 families in our office, and it was just piling up all of these gifts and stuff, and then staff were going around delivering them. I don't know if they were all, into Christmas, because I never asked them. We never had that conversation.
That's good. I worked at a youth organization for 8 years, and every Christmas season, or the weeks leading up to Christmas, our particular program would rally the staff to bring in food items for some of the families in our community who just might not have or be blessed with some of the goodies that other families are blessed with over the Christmas season. So we too would pack them up and deliver them.
Yeah.
And there was a bit of awkwardness for me because the intention was that it was clearly understood that I do it because it's a program expectation and it's an organizational expectation. And regardless of my difference in beliefs, which wasn't necessarily no one necessarily checked into that or asked me questions. I was just caught up in the wave of what needed to happen and get done, and just became part of it. I'm not dismissing the joy that I felt. You and I are just tapping into the idea of creating that conversation. I mean, if there's only one message we can deliver today, and that's about get the conversation going. No assumptions, no expectations around what needs to happen, what should happen, and what happens every year. But to sit down with folks around the table and say, listen, so where are we at with all of this?
What about the mental? If we move beyond the religion aspect, what about the mental health aspect? Because, like I said, I know that you struggle with mental illness. I've struggled with depression over the years. And I know many of the women that I work with do. And so, again, there's days that I would show up at work and I was ready to fall apart. I would want to be crying. I would be crying. I wanted to go back to bed and hide under my covers. I wanted to be mad at the world. And here I was needing to go out and, teach parenting in the programs I was working with, be nice to my coworkers. As a supervisor, I needed to have the confidence and the assurance to lead them. And really, my mind was fried. How do we deal with that or open that conversation up?
If you don't mind, I'm just going to give a response to that is a little bit different than I initially thought of.
Yeah.
I'd like to invite everybody to Google the following. The National Standard of Canada for Psychological Health and Safety in the Workplace.
We'll make sure
one more time.
That after, okay?
Yeah, and so Google after the National Standard of Canada for Psychological Health and Safety in the Workplace. And in part, what I heard in your story, and this is where the national standard is pretty cool. It's pretty awesome. In fact, it's the only one of its kind in the world. It assists employers in creating conversations at the workplace around policies, procedures to address workplace mental health. And it's a pretty broad package, but you can insert yourself at any point in the package and just take and bite off small chunks. So the reason why I'm bringing this to everyone's attention, in your story, I heard something a little bit about maybe the organization was kind of missing the moment or missing a piece around procedures, policies, around workplace mental health. And maybe, just maybe at that time, it wasn't part of the community's conversation, but it sure is today. And I know that the National Standard of Canada for Psychological Health and Safety is a great place to start around creating conversations, around policies, around procedures, recognizing that mental health in the workplace is a significant issue. And where do we start? How do we begin? What can that look like for the Kathys, for the Roberts, and for the many of us who, secretly, kind of show up at work and keep it private and personal and buck up.
Yes, that's exactly it.
And do what's needed to be done. Although, as you said, I might fall into a momentary lapse of tears here. So just something to think about, that there's just a wonderful resource out there, to get started.
The other thing I want to add is people comment on my energy sometimes, and obviously yours as well. And I'm going to make a wild guess that you do the same as me, Robert, in that energy, that happiness, that positivity is a way to deal with the mental health stuff as well. So for me, I know that music lifts my soul. I know that by 10 o'clock when I take a coffee break, I'm going to go crank the tunes in my house and I'm going to dance around my house. I absolutely know that I need to go outside for a walk at some point in the day. I need sunshine. It is vital to my mental well-being. So is the exercise. So is eating healthy. I've incorporated all of those things. The world around me thinks I have this wonderful amount of energy, but partly I create that pretense of energy to give me the emotional and physical boost. What do you think?
Can you say that last piece? That was so cool. You create this.
Well, I create the pretense of energy so
What
that
does
it
that
actually
mean?
lifts
What
me
does
up.
that mean?
Well,
What does that mean?
so
I create the pretense of energy.
so I cannot wait for something to make me be happy. I have to create the feeling of happiness inside of me. You and I can
Wow.
you and I can both look at the sunrise and you can go, "Yeah, I've seen sunrises before. I've
Mm,
seen better." Or I can go, "Oh my God, that's an amazing sunrise." You
mm.
the you When you want to feel something, you have to create that feeling. So I don't feel energetic at 10 o'clock when I take a coffee break. I create the energy by turning on the music. The minute I turn on the music, my body starts to change. I smile,
Mm.
and I create an energetic state. But I had to do something to get to that point. Does that make sense?
Wow, blow my mind, Kathy. You know what? I feel that way. I feel that way. I've never heard it articulated that way. The
Hmm.
pretense,
Yeah.
and then creating the energy through an activity that you have a very, emotional and joyful relationship with.
Let me give
But
you let me
it's
give you another example related to your
okay.
work.
Hmm,
Um, People want a team that's engaged.
okay.
So, okay, so do you sit at staff meeting and look at each other and go, when are we going to feel engaged? Are we feeling engaged yet? Is it working? No, you do something. You have a conversation. You play with boom whackers. You do something to create that feeling of engagement,
Wow.
right?
Ah, wow. I never saw, wow. You know what? I don't know what to say. I would never have thought of your two examples, because one was very personal to you
Hmm.
and one was more about, the workplace, but
Yeah.
you were able to show the similarity between the two. And I've never thought of my life in that way. I've never thought about like the pretense,
Yeah.
because it's the business of powerful play experiences is just me being me. And so I've never thought of it as a pretense in my work with workplace teams, but I know that there's a pretense here at home. Even leading up to this conversation
Yeah.
or this interview, I needed to work on. I needed to
Absolutely.
acknowledge, yeah, and recognize that I need to be in a happy place. And it became work for me, Kathy, to
Oh,
move from unhappy to happy.
yes.
And so I worked at moving from unhappy to happy in order for us to engage in this activity together. But
Well, go ahead, keep going.
and as a result of it, I the transition after we're done here in the next few minutes, the transition away from this activity between the two of us, I'm re-energized. I'm rejuvenated.
Yeah.
So it's funny that I was transitioning from unhappy to happy, but when our activity ends here in a couple of minutes, I'll be able to transition back with a new energy, feeling
Yes.
rejuvenated, feeling ready, re-energized,
Well,
and
and
that's
it's powerful, isn't it?
it is. And I think I'm wondering if even workplaces are having those conversations around energy. How is your energy at this time of year?
Yes.
What does
Yes.
that look like? And how is it feeling for you, knowing that you have that proposal to do before the
Yeah.
24th, on top of all the expectations that are running through your mind to take care of family affairs, family activities, leading up to the 24th and the 25th of the month.
And I think
Go ahead.
well, where many of us are at is survival mode. I talk about survival mode all the time, right? It's like, just get me through today. Just get me through this week.
Oh
Just get me
no.
through Christmas. Just get me through this, whatever it is.
Oh no. Oh
Right. And
no.
and so I think what we're talking about is when you can start to shift your mindset and start to go, okay, let's not just survive this next week, guys, as a team. Let's create the energy, the momentum, the excitement, the mood that's going to propel us honestly through this. And so
Wow. Write
for
that down.
for many of us, I think that's shedding some of the expectations. So if your group is saying, we're going to decorate our doors for Christmas and we're going to put on this
Oh no.
party for the community, and whoa, back up the truck here. Maybe we need to declutter Christmas so that you can find the real meaning there.
Oh my Lord. I love what you just said. Declutter Christmas. Declutter Christmas at work. And
Yes.
you're not talking about the things. You're talking about decluttering the mind, the
Yeah.
soul, the heart,
Yes.
and having those conversations to figure out what is the energy that we want to create. How do we want it to look? How can it facilitate our own needs as well as the needs of community and our clients, and position us to be happy and feel good?
Yeah. Isn't that what
And
Christmas or the season or life is generally about? Is just enjoyment, right? I mean, at
yes.
the end of the day, is that not what we all want? Is just to feel some joy every day, regardless of what season it is, to feel content, to feel happy? Pretty
I
simple.
love it. That's awesome. That's awesome. Man, so much to think about, but it all starts with the conversation. I'm wondering how many leaders out there who are either watching or watching the replay of this interview, how many leaders out there are inspired now to create an opportunity for conversations with their teams. So look at how much we share together that could be of benefit to everyone,
So
emotionally.
I'm going to challenge people on the replay or watching this now. Comment below if you've been inspired. If you've thought, okay, I'm going to go have a conversation. Comment below. Share. If you've gone and already had the conversation. If you're watching the replay, come back and let us know. We would love to know how this conversation that Robert and I have had has impacted your leadership and the way you're thinking about mental health this time of year. Anything else you want to add, Robert, that we haven't touched on?
About 10 years into our relationship together, Sharon and I, 10 years of Christmas seasons. I remember that year vividly. The 10th year is when I literally pulled her back 1 week before Christmas, and together we had a conversation. We had a conversation about Christmas traditions.
Yeah.
Things that she expected to happen that I should have been in tune to and aware of for the past 9 years. So there was a little bit of tension going into that 10th year because I wasn't pulling my weight.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what I was supposed to be pulling, right? So the 10th year was pivotal for us because it was in the 10th year that she and I paused. We stopped. We reflected. We listened to each other at the kitchen table, face to face, right? Over a cup of tea,
Yeah.
and had a meaningful conversation about how were we going to approach this 10th Christmas together in a way that would bring us happy and joy. Because up until that point, I didn't know what I should be doing.
Yeah.
I didn't even know how I should be doing it. I didn't even know what my role was, being of Jewish heritage. So it took 10 years. It took 10 years before we had that conversation. And but when we did, you know, that moment, boy, did I feel lighter. And so did Sharon. And it was only because we found our way together and we had an understanding around each other's expectations at this time of year. And then we became gooder for each other and happier for each other because we had an understanding of how this thing called Christmas needs to play out. Without the conversation, it was do on her part, and me as an observer feeling very much disconnected to my relationship with her. And I didn't enjoy that Christmas feeling disconnected with her for 9 years.
Yeah.
So it took a bit of time. So I love the challenge you put out there to all the leaders who are tuning in today, watching the replay. Kathy and I are not giving you 10 years to make this happen.
Well, I was just going to say, Robert, that it probably took my husband and I 20 years to have that conversation. And it wasn't one conversation, it was many, and it was more me digging my heels in saying, I'm done. I cannot do this anymore. I've had enough. And I really had to step back and, you know, take out a lot. I stopped Christmas baking. I stopped writing Christmas newsletters. I stopped decorating the house to the max. I stopped the massive amounts of gifts we were buying. You know, I said no more, and I really pulled back, and I really had to connect to what was meaningful for Christmas for me, and that was singing Christmas carols. So I joined choir, and I'm not a singer, but they put up with me. You know, going to the seniors, I realized how important the scripture around Christmas was to me, and reconnecting to that. And so I had to step back and do some self-evaluation around, why am I filling Christmas with all this stuff and just stressing myself out? And you know, as I say, when I went back over it, I realized I lost a sibling at Christmas. There was some significant events that happened in the workplace at Christmas that made it kind of nasty for me.
Yeah.
And, you know, so I had to kind of deconstruct all that. And that's what I'm talking with my women all the time about, doing the inner work. You have to figure out what's going on so that you can make sense of it. And it's only in the last few years that I've started to reconnect to the joy at Christmas, because I've stepped back and done the work.
Wow.
Yeah, thank you. Wasn't easy.
I'm going to refer 3 or 4 women to you.
Thank you. And likewise.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Robert. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing your wisdom, your insights, your knowledge, your honesty. This is an important conversation, one that we don't have enough. And we are inviting you to have this conversation at Christmas time, at this season. But quite frankly, these types of conversations are important all year long with your employees. We're different. We're individuals. We don't have all of the same likes, dislikes. We haven't experienced the same things in our lives. And the more you can have some of these gentle, not forceful, side conversations about what's going on for you, what's happening, what can we do, and instituting some ideas around mental health and conversations, the more you're going to create those engaged teams. Any last thoughts, Robert?
And that's positive workplace mental health for teams.
There you go. That's it. All right. For those of you that celebrate Christmas, have a very Merry Christmas. For those of you that don't, enjoy your day, enjoy your time. And thank you very much, Robert, for chatting with us. And we will connect with you all again soon.
And happy Hanukkah.
There you go.